My in-laws forced my 9-year-old daughter to take the blame for stealing, knowing she didn't do it. "You have to protect your cousin," they said. "It's what family does." She got suspended. I didn't shout. I acted. 2 hours later, their lives started to fall apart. If you'd told me that a normal Wednesday morning would end with my 9-year-old daughter sitting across from a police officer, clutching a crumpled confession in her shaking hands, I would have laughed. The dry, humorless kind you give right before the world tilts. But that's exactly how it happened. It started with laundry. Just laundry. A quiet morning, a half-finished cup of coffee, and the feeling, for once, that the day might be manageable. Then my phone buzzed. Missed call from the school. Then another. And another. By the time I finally heard the ringtone, I had shampoo in my hair. That's the only reason I didn't pick up sooner. Shampoo. Not disaster. Not crisis. Shampoo. I tapped the screen with wet fingers. "Ms. Jacobs?" the receptionist said, voice tight. "You need to come to the school. Immediately." "What happened? Is Chloe okay?" I can't discuss details on the phone, but you need to come now." Every mother knows that tone. The one that hits you right under the ribs. I rinsed, threw on clothes that didn't match, and drove faster than I legally should have. I told myself everything was fine. Kids fall, kids get sick, kids call home, kids don't confess to crimes. I didn't realize how wrong I was until I pulled into the school driveway and saw the police car. My stomach dropped so fast I felt dizzy. Inside, the hallways were too loud and too quiet at once. A teacher guided me toward the principal's office, but her eyes kept flicking away from me. That pitying, uncomfortable look people give when they know something you don't. The door opened, and there was Chloe, my daughter, my baby, sitting rigid in a chair, hands balled into fists in her lap, her little sneakers swinging above the floor. Her face was pale, not sick pale, scared pale. Beside her sat Ms. Park, her teacher, and beside Ms. Park stood a uniformed police officer. I felt the world tilt again. The principal cleared her throat. "Ms. Jacobs, please sit." What's happening?" She gestured to the table. A school-issued iPad lay there, Ms. Park's name sticker on the back. I recognized it instantly. I'd seen her carrying it at conferences. "This iPad went missing yesterday," the principal said gently. "We found it in your daughter's possession this morning." I blinked. That sentence genuinely didn't compute. "My daughter?" I asked, like maybe the word daughter suddenly meant something else. The officer nodded. "She admitted she took it." Ms. Park looked heartbroken. Not angry. Heartbroken. "We asked Chloe to write down what happened," the principal said softly. "This is her statement." She slid a page toward me. It was Chloe's handwriting, her neat little block letters, words she had clearly practiced. "I took the iPad. I wanted to borrow it. I didn't mean to cause trouble." My throat closed. I knelt in front of her. "Chloe, sweetie, did you really take it?" She froze, eyes wide, looking from Ms. Park to the officer to the principal, then back to me, and she whispered, barely audible, "Yes, I stole it." The scripted line she'd been told to say, but I didn't know that yet. Not then. At that moment, all I felt was disbelief so sharp it burned. The principal continued explaining. Something about district policy, something about data access, something about mandatory reports. But I barely heard a word. My ears buzzed. My heart thudded. My hands shook. Then the officer said, "We're not charging her. She's 9. But we do need a formal report, and the school is issuing a suspension." Suspension. My daughter. Suspended. I nodded because I didn't know what else to do. What do you do when the ground you're standing on disappears? A few minutes later, Chloe and I were walking out of the office. She held my hand like it was the only solid thing left in the world. She didn't speak. I didn't either. Not until I buckled her into the car and sat in the driver's seat, breathing like someone had punched me. "Honey," I said softly, "please tell me what happened. The truth. Just between us." She didn't answer at first. Then her chin trembled, and the dam broke. "It wasn't me," she sobbed. "I didn't take it. I didn't. It was Asher." Asher, her 9-year-old cousin. I froze. She continued through hiccuping breaths. "He took it from Miss Park's desk and brought it home. He thought it was funny. He showed it to Grandma and Grandpa, and they got so mad. They said he couldn't get in trouble because he's smart and special and he has opportunities." She wiped her nose with the back of her hand. "And they said I had to say I did it instead." My heart cracked clean down the middle. "They told me I had to take the blame," she whispered. "They said it was what family does, that I'm stronger, that Asher would get in big trouble and lose everything, and Grandma said—" She swallowed. "She said no one would love me if I blamed my cousin." I gripped the steering wheel so hard my fingers hurt. And I wasn't supposed to tell you," she added, voice trembling. "She said you'd be mad at me." "Mad at you?" I had to look away for a second because I genuinely felt like the universe was splitting in half. I took out my phone. My hands were shaking. But I dialed anyway. Patricia answered on the third ring, syrupy sweet. "Lauren, did Chloe get home all right?" I didn't bother with pleasantries. "What did you do to my daughter?" "Oh, don't start," she sighed. "She's being dramatic. It was a little favor. Asher can't afford something like this on his record." She was suspended. The police questioned her. "Oh, stop," she snapped. "She's a child. Nothing will happen." She confessed to a crime she didn't commit. "She helped her cousin," Patricia said, voice sugary and smug. "You should be proud she understands family loyalty." I hung up. Not slammed, not screamed. Just pressed the button. Quietly. Coldly. That was the moment everything inside me shifted. Something clean, sharp, and final. They thought they could sacrifice my daughter to save their golden child. They had no idea what they'd just started. If you'd met Derek when I met Derek, you would have understood how I ended up here. He was the kind of man who could say, "Good morning," and make it sound like a compliment. Tall, tan, charming, absolutely useless. Though it took me years to realize that last part. Back then, I mistook charisma for depth. I mistook attention for love. I mistook a handsome smile for stability. And then I got pregnant. That was when the charm evaporated and real life walked in uninvited. Suddenly, Derek still wanted to party, still wanted late nights, still wanted freedom, still wanted to flirt with anything that had eyelashes, but be a partner, a father, help me carry groceries, hold a crying newborn at 3 a.m. Please. I remember standing in the kitchen one night, holding Chloe in one arm and a bottle of formula in the other, while Derek walked out the front door with cologne still hanging in the air behind him. He kissed my cheek and said, "Don't wait up," as if I had the option. When Chloe was 2, I found photos on his phone. Blurry selfies with girls whose names I didn't want to know and whose outfits made me remember the body I used to have. He didn't admit it, didn't deny it, just shrugged like fidelity was old-fashioned. By the time Chloe turned 4, I filed for divorce. And honestly, I thought the worst was over. I thought, naively, that Derek would barely fight me. He was never home. He didn't even pretend to know Chloe's bedtime routine. He couldn't remember her pediatrician's name. So you can imagine my shock when he fought tooth and nail for custody. His lawyer used words like fatherly devotion and shared responsibility, and I sat there wondering if I'd entered an alternate universe. But he won. 2 nights a week. 48 hours where Chloe was supposed to spend quality time with her father, and for 5 seconds I let myself hope. I thought maybe he'd grown up. Maybe losing us had shaken him awake. Wrong. The first Thursday that was his, he texted, "Running late. Drop her at my parents'." That became the routine. Every dad night was really a grandparent night because Derek's schedule was always crazy. Crazy being code for girls and bars and anything except his child. But I didn't drag him back to court. I wanted to believe Chloe having grandparents was better than nothing. I wanted calm, not another custody war. Stupid, in hindsight. Around the same time, Derek's sister Kendra moved back to town with her son Asher. Chloe's age, Chloe's class, Chloe's opposite in every way. Kendra moved in with Patricia and Howard, my ex-in-laws. And once Asher arrived, the house became his kingdom. He wasn't just the favorite. He was the son, and everyone else was required to orbit him. Age 6. That's how old they were when the imbalance became too obvious to ignore. Asher got everything. The best snacks, the best toys, the expensive holiday pajamas, the special outings, the trips, the praise. Chloe got, well, whatever was left. Hand-me-down affection, second-hand smiles, the "we love you too" sort of energy. And the worst part? I kept telling myself I was imagining it. "He lives there full-time," I said. "They're just closer to him," I said. "Maybe I'm being sensitive," I said. I rationalized the hell out of that dysfunction because I didn't want to believe a family could love one child and tolerate the other. But then came the moment I should have seen as a warning sign. During the divorce, I'd asked Derek for permission to move back to my hometown, where my parents lived, where I had support, where Chloe would have stability and love. I wasn't trying to punish him. I wasn't trying to run away. I just needed help, and my help was 300 miles away. He refused instantly, not because he cared about Chloe, not because he planned to be a better dad. He refused because it was the one form of control he had left. Punishing me was more important than supporting her. That should have told me everything. But trauma makes you excuse bad behavior in beautifully creative ways. For years, I ignored the tightness in my daughter's voice when she talked about Grandma Patricia. I ignored the way she shrank at family gatherings when Asher received his latest round of applause. I ignored the way she lingered near me at drop-off, like she wanted to say something but didn't know how. I ignored it all because admitting the truth meant facing the fact that Derek's family, the people I depended on for those court-ordered custody days, did not love my daughter the way they loved Asher. And then came the iPad. The stolen iPad. The forced confession. The suspension. The police. The shaking hands. The whispered, "No one will love me if I blame my cousin." The moment every suppressed doubt snapped into focus. Everything I tried to rationalize suddenly fit together with sickening clarity. They hadn't just favored Asher. They had always favored him. They had always seen my daughter as secondary. They had always expected her to be grateful for scraps. They had always believed protecting Asher's future mattered more than protecting her childhood. And the worst part? They'd been training her, slowly, quietly, subtly, to believe it too. All those years of be a big girl. All those years of Asher's sensitive. All those years of don't make a fuss. All those years of handing him the first slice of cake and telling her to share. All those years of brushing off her hurt with, he didn't mean it. They'd been teaching her her place. And when the iPad incident came, she already knew the role she was expected to play. The scapegoat. The sacrifice. the child they could afford to lose. I used to think the worst thing in life was being married to Derek. I was wrong. The worst thing is realizing the people you trusted with your child, the people you hoped would love her, guide her, protect her, were willing to ruin her life to save someone else's. And in that moment, sitting in my car with my daughter sobbing into her hands, I felt something I hadn't felt in years. Clarity, not rage, not confusion, not heartbreak. Clarity. This wasn't a misunderstanding. This was a deliberate choice, and I knew exactly what I had to do next. They thought I would swallow it. They thought Chloe would stay silent. They thought wrong. If anyone had told me that the worst part wouldn't be the police officer, or the suspension, or even the written confession, it would be the car ride home afterward, I would have laughed. Not a happy laugh. A brittle one. The kind you give when you're trying not to shatter. Chloe cried herself quiet in the back seat. Not asleep. Quiet. Which is worse. When we got home, she clung to me like she was afraid someone would rip her away. And honestly, I felt the same. I made hot chocolate. She didn't drink it. I sat on the couch. She curled into my side, shaking. People talk about maternal instinct like it's soft and warm. Mine felt like broken glass. "Sweetheart," I whispered, "you're safe now. You did nothing wrong." She nodded, but her eyes were far away, the way kids look when they're trying to understand something that shouldn't exist in their world. They said I was helping," she whispered, "and that Asher would lose everything if I didn't." I closed my eyes. Once. Slowly. Because if I didn't, I was going to break something. "And they said," she swallowed, "they said you'd be disappointed in me if I told you." There it was. The knife. The idea that she thought I'd choose them over her. "Look at me," I said. She did. Those terrified, apologetic eyes that didn't belong on a 9-year-old. "I love you," I said. Not them. Not their rules. Not their twisted version of family. You. Always. She burst into tears again, and I held her until she finally stopped shaking. But comforting her didn't cool my anger. It sharpened it. There's a special kind of rage reserved for people who hurt your child. Not a loud rage, a cold, calculated kind. I stood up, grabbed my keys, and kissed Chloe's forehead. "Where are you going?" she whispered. "To make sure this never happens again." She nodded like she understood in her bones. I drove straight to the police station. On the way, I practiced my voice. Neutral, steady, unshakable, because if I broke down even once, they might mistake me for emotional instead of furious. Inside, I explained everything. The officer's expression went from polite to horrified in under 30 seconds. "Wait, your daughter was told to confess?" he asked. "Told, coached, threatened, manipulated. Pick your verb." He blinked. "I'm going to need you to write that down." So I did. I wrote down every detail Chloe had whispered in the car, every word Patricia said, every lie, every threat, every ounce of pressure. I wrote until my hand cramped. When I finished, he said, "We'll open a report for coercion of a minor." Coercion of a minor. Hearing it out loud almost made me dizzy. "Will this help Chloe?" I asked. "Yes," he said. "It absolutely will." And for the first time that day, I breathed. Next, I drove back to the school. This time, I didn't wait politely in the office. I knocked on Ms. Park's classroom door and asked the principal to join us. The moment they saw the police report in my hand, their expressions changed. "I'm so sorry," Ms. Park whispered. "We would never have suspended her if we knew," the principal started. That's why I'm here, I said. She didn't steal anything. She didn't do any of this willingly. She was coached, threatened, lied to. I handed them copies of the statement. And she wrote that confession, I said, because she was told she'd lose her grandparents' love if she didn't. Ms. Park covered her mouth. The principal sat down slowly. We'll reopen the investigation, she said. Good, I said. Because you suspended the wrong child. I walked out before they could say anything else. Not dramatically. Just deliberately. Silence is louder than shouting. I didn't even make it home before my phone started vibrating. First call, Derek. Lauren, what the hell is this? He barked. My mother is in tears. Good, I said. She should be. You filed a police report? Over a kid's mistake? Over nothing? Your parents coerced a minor into confessing to a crime. Oh my God, he groaned. You're always so dramatic. I hung up. Next call, Patricia. Her voice was shrill. You ungrateful little, how dare you go to the police? You're going to ruin Asher's future. You almost ruined Chloe's. She was helping the family. She's 9. Oh, please, she snapped. She's tougher than she looks. I hung up again. Next call, Kendra. You think you can prove anything? She hissed. You think anyone will believe you? Chloe confessed. In writing. Under duress. You can't prove that. You'd be surprised. I hung up a third time. 3 calls. 3 villains. And strangely, I felt calmer with each one, because their panic told me everything I needed to know. They weren't sorry. They weren't confused. They weren't mistaken. They were guilty and scared, exactly where they needed to be. I walked back into the house and found Chloe drawing quietly at the table, the tension gone from her shoulders for the first time all day. I kissed the top of her head. You okay, baby? She nodded, and something settled inside me. A resolve so solid it felt like steel. They wanted a war. They just forgot one thing. I don't lose when I'm fighting for my child. The next few days were strange, quiet, not peaceful, just recalibrating. Chloe stayed home with me while the school reviewed everything. She carried the suspension like a bruise, not visible, but painful every time she moved. I kept things simple. Ice cream, movies, walks, anything normal. One night she asked, do I have to see them again? No, I said. You don't. It wasn't dramatic, just the truth. 2 days later, my mother arrived from out of state. She hugged Chloe like she was coming home from war. Chloe clung to her in a way that made something in my chest crack. After 10 minutes, my mother looked at me and said quietly, You should have moved home years ago. I wasn't allowed, I said. Courts. She nodded. She didn't push. She didn't need to. While Chloe spent time with her, I drove to the school for the update they promised. The principal looked exhausted. Ms. Park looked embarrassed. They asked me to sit. Bad sign. Then told me what happened. They questioned Asher alone. They showed him the anonymous post that used a photo lifted from Ms. Park's iPad. A stupid, childish picture she would have deleted if she remembered it existed. Apparently, Asher giggled. That was all it took. The dam broke. He admitted stealing the iPad, admitted poking around in files, admitted posting the picture as a joke, admitted Patricia, Howard, and Kendra told Chloe to take the blame. The principal apologized, sincerely, but an apology doesn't fix what happened in that office, or the way Chloe looked at herself afterward. They overturned Chloe's suspension that day. Her record cleared. Everything reversed. Good, but not good enough. Next stop, Mr. Merrick's office. My lawyer. I sat across from him and handed over everything. The police report, Chloe's statement, the school findings, all of it. He read in silence, turning pages slowly. Then he put the file down. "You have grounds for emergency custody," he said. "Strong grounds." "Good," I said. We filed that afternoon. The judge didn't take long. Temporary sole custody granted. Chloe would stay with me until the final hearing. That night, the calls started. Patricia first. "You selfish brat! Do you know what you've done to Asher's future?" I hung up. Next came Kendra. "You can't prove anything. She confessed. You're trying to destroy us." Hung up. Then Derek. "You're blowing this out of proportion." "You weren't there," I said. "Like always." He sputtered something defensive. I hung up a third time. 2 weeks later, we were in court. Derek showed up in a too expensive suit that didn't match his face. He had the expression of someone who assumed this was all an inconvenience he'd be done with by lunchtime. His lawyer opened with, "My client wasn't even present during the incident." Mr. Merrick smiled. The polite kind that means trouble. "That's correct," he said. "He was not present. He is never present. He wins custody and then offloads the child to his parents, who manipulated a 9-year-old into confessing to a crime. That is the issue." Derek shifted in his seat. For once, he didn't have a smirk ready. We laid out everything. The police report, the school findings, the timeline, his complete lack of involvement in parenting. It didn't take an expert. It took 5 minutes for the judge to see exactly what he was. When it was over, the judge said, "Sole legal and physical custody to the mother. Father will have supervised visitation only." Supervised. That was it. That one word cracked open a door I'd been pounding on for years. Because supervised visitation meant something simple. I could move. And I did. I filed the relocation notice. I packed the house. I loaded the car. 3 weeks later, Chloe and I were driving across state lines toward my hometown, the place I'd been trying to bring her since she was 4. When we got there, my mother was waiting outside, waving like we were arriving from a long trip instead of escaping a war zone. Chloe ran straight into her arms. That was the moment I knew we were done with the old life. As for Patricia, Howard, Kendra, and Derek, they spent years reminding me I didn't belong in their family. Turns out they were right. And now, they have exactly what they wanted. A life without us. We have one without them too, and ours is better. It's been a year. Life looks nothing like it used to. No drama, no anxiety, no waiting for the next blow. Just normal. I didn't realize how rare that was until we had it. Derek never used his supervised visitation. Not once. He disappeared from the schedule the same way he disappeared from parenting. Chloe stopped asking about him months ago. That used to hurt, but now it feels like peace. She isn't waiting for someone who never showed up. She's thriving. New school, new friends, new routines. My parents live 20 minutes away, and Chloe lights up around them. Amazing what real love can do. I got a new job too. Better hours, better pay, better everything. Turns out life gets lighter when nobody is dragging you down. Every so often, a friend from our old state sends me updates. Apparently the fallout didn't stay quiet. Asher didn't settle after the iPad incident. More jokes, more boundary issues, more excuses from Kendra. Eventually, he was expelled. Not suspended. Expelled. And when he enrolled in a new school, parents there already knew. Stories travel fast when kids are involved. No one wants their child sitting next to the boy who stole a teacher's device and let another kid take the fall. Patricia and Howard didn't escape the consequences either. Their reputation took a dive. Invitations dried up. They were quietly asked to step back from groups they once bragged about. Parents didn't want them around their kids either. But the harshest fallout hit Kendra. At Asher's new school, People had already heard what happened. The other moms kept their distance. The looks were sharp. Last I heard, she avoids school events whenever she can. Meanwhile, Chloe comes home smiling now. That tells me everything I need to know. So tell me, did I go too far? Or not far enough? Let me know in the comments and subscribe for more.